Hello everyone, welcome to Unit 4, Socialization, Part 1 of 2. This is Chapter 4 in your textbook. So what will you learn in this video? We'll talk about socialization as a lifelong process. We'll talk about the debates about the role of nature and nurture in human behavior, and you can decide for yourself whether you think it's nature or nurture. We'll talk about the impact of social isolation on humans. We're going to start with defining socialization. So socialization is the social learning a person goes through to become a capable member of society. It's a lifelong process. From the day we are born, we're socialized by our parents, by our siblings, by our young friends, our early teachers. As we become teenagers, we have more influence on and by our friends. As young adults, we're socialized in our workplace. And this lifelong learning process goes on until the day we die. We learn through social interaction. It's influenced by our culture, our social class, gender, ethnicity, everything that goes on around us. Teaches us how to behave in certain situations. Let's begin with the nature versus nurture debate. The question, is our behavior determined by our biology, or is our behavior learned through our social environment? So nature says that the belief that genetic and biological heredity are the primary causes of human behaviors. And nurture is the belief that the way in which we think, feel, and behave are the results of our environment. So an easy way to think of it is nature is everything that happens before conception, and nurture is everything that happens after conception. And you can follow along and find this on page 66 in your textbook. The nature argument uses the concept of biological determinism to explain that behavior is determined by genetic makeup or other biological attributes. In this respect, it sees biology as destiny. So the nature argument, biology is destiny, it's in our genetic makeup, it's decided at conception, it's determined by your parents, grandparents, the whole gene pool that makes up who you are. The nurture argument is that the social environment is a crucial part of an individual's socialization. Sociologists argue that social environment has a greater effect than heredity on the way we develop and the way we act. Does knowledge that heredity play a basic role? Okay, let's consider the act of crying. When you're born, you learn to cry because you're tired or you're hungry or there's an itchy tag on your sweater. And young girls are taught that when they cry, they get a kiss and a Band-Aid. Young boys are taught when they cry, they're told to stand up and get on with it. So click on the picture on the next slide to watch the video, or you can watch it now.
Terrible grades. A dad
leans over her shoulder to take a peek at the academic horror show. The girl turns around and asks, "So what do you think, Dad? Nature or nurture?" Centuries ago, John Locke and others began arguing that our personality is mainly shaped by the environment we were raised in. Others, such as Charles Darwin, believe that we are largely programmed genetically. Modern behavioral geneticists think that it's more complex because the two interact. And relatively recently, a little crayfish from Germany showed just how little we actually know. But more about her later. First, let's go back to the girl, her dad, and what we do know. Neither the dad nor the smartest scientists can answer what leads to certain school outcomes of our 7-year-old girl. We do know, however, a bit about the influences of genes and the environment when it comes to groups of specific populations. Take, for example, a group of 100 white American men in their early 20s, and you will probably find, on average, an IQ of 100, a height of 178 centimeters or around 5.8 feet, and that 10 have spelling problems. We can now ask which of these three traits is determined by genes, anything that happened before conception, often referred to as nature, and which by the environment, anything that happened after their mothers got pregnant, often referred to as nurture. To understand the two forces, we need to acknowledge that environmental influences are often random. Siblings experience home very differently. And we need to recognize that genes are complex. There is no single gene doing a single thing. We therefore know little about which trait in an individual is the result of their genetic makeup and which is due to the environment. We only know about the impact of nature and nurture on trait differences of a particular group. And to learn about that, we need to understand heritability. Heritability is a factor that ranges between 1 and 0. 1 stands for genetic influences, 0 for environmental factors. Heritability defines the genetic impact on trait differences in a particular population. It cannot measure the degree to which a trait of a particular individual is genetic. Dyslexia, for example, has a heritability closer to 1. That means that genes explain more of the difference in spelling mistakes of our group than school, family, or random factors. It does not mean that one particular person with spelling problems got them genetically. Some just didn't get much support when they were young. How complex the interaction between genes and environment really is becomes clear when we look at something as seemingly straightforward as IQ and height. First, let's examine height. A group of 100 white American male students are on average 178 centimeters tall. That's roughly 5 feet 10 inches. Their heritability for height is around 0.8. If some men in this group are 183 centimeters or 6 feet tall, then heritability allows us to assume that 80% of that difference is, on average, caused by genetic variance, and 20% of the difference is due to lifestyle. If the same group of people were raised in a region that experienced systemic droughts and they never had enough to eat, their potential for an average height of 178 centimeters is far from ever being reached. The heritability for height might now go from 0.8 down to 0.5. Nature and nurture are now equally responsible for group differences. This means heritability changes. If we have a well-nourished population on the one side and a malnourished group on the other, then the impact of nutrition on the differences in height changes from 20% to 50%. In other words, nurture matters a lot until we reach a point from which it's not as relevant. So what about intelligence? The heritability of IQ is around 0.6 for people in their 20s and then increases as we age. The average IQ in our group will be around 100. But some have an IQ of 110. Genes are therefore responsible for 60% of the difference, and random factors in the environment for about 40%. In other words, for those with an IQ of 110, 6 of the additional 10 points can, on average, be attributed to nature and 4 points to nurture. Now, even if nurture plays a big role, it doesn't mean that teachers or parents had any impact. Unlike height, which we know how to increase through nutrition, when it comes to IQ, we don't know much about how to improve it. Random factors seem to play a big role. How random the environment is becomes clear when we look at two kids that are born into the same family. Both are raised in the same shared environment, but firstborns, on average, turn out to be more intelligent than their younger siblings. And if one of the two siblings was adopted, the two would have some correlation in IQ during their upbringing. But as adults, they would be hardly more similar in intelligence than complete strangers. Parents, it seems, have a very limited impact on a child's IQ. So now what about that crayfish? In 1995, German scientists made an odd observation. The little female creature had mutated and become asexual, able to make clones of itself. As each clone shared exactly the same genetic blueprint, the scientists set up an experiment for the ultimate test. Hundreds of these little identical creatures were placed in the same environment, same water, same temperature, same amount of food. Even though the scientists tried to control all these variables, the unthinkable happened. Some crayfish stayed tiny, others grew big, some died, others lived on. And while some became social, others enjoyed solitude. Why do you think that happened? Is that nature, nurture, or a complex interplay of the two?
In talking about nature versus nurture, there are several experiments that have been done on animals. Because humans rely more heavily on social learning than monkeys do, the process of socialization is even more important to us. But we can't experiment on humans. This experiment is called the Harlow experiment. This is about isolation in non-human primates. So Harlow researched the effects of maternal separation and social isolation on rhesus monkeys. He studied how attached they became to wire monkeys. So this is a pseudo-mother wire monkey with food. This is a pseudo-wire monkey of a mother with some soft fabric and no food. These monkeys were deprived of social contact with other monkeys. Most of the monkeys attached to the pseudo-mother with the fabric rather than opting for the food. These monkeys were later unable to socialize with other monkeys and were fearful or hostile to adult monkeys. Humans need other humans in order to live and to develop normally, and serious consequences have been shown with children of isolation and abuse, as contrasted with healthy social interaction and parental affection. This is not a human experiment that can ethically be done, so to isolate a child from human contact, research has been done of children who were abandoned at a young age. There are several examples of feral and severely abused children that illuminate the importance of socialization from a young age. Of course, we do have animation. We have Tarzan and the Jungle Book. The case of Victor. So Victor was a boy who was discovered in a forest in 18th century France. He was about 11 years old, and it was assumed that he had lived alone in the forest for 5 or 6 years. The doctor who attempted to socialize him was partially successful, enabling him to have a few phrases. In the case of Anna, Anna was born in 1932 in the United States. She was found in 1938 after being raised in isolation. Anna had no speech, she could not talk, no gestures, no capacity to feed herself, no response to external stimuli, and thought to be deaf. She was removed from that environment, and she was taught to walk, follow directions, talk in some phrases, wash her hands, brush her teeth. Unfortunately, Anna passed away at the age of 10. Another famous example is the case of Jeannie. Jeannie was discovered in 1972 at the age of 13. She had been locked in a room and tied down from the age of 20 months. After she was rescued, she was studied and taught by experts at a children's hospital. She, like some of the others, was able to acquire some skills, but could not fully recover from the isolation and neglect. Much more recently is the case of J.C. Dugard. J.C. was kidnapped by Philip and Nancy Gerardo in 1991 at the age of 11. She spent 18 years in captivity, during which time she was raped repeatedly and gave birth to 2 daughters. She was freed after their arrest in 2009. She has been interviewed several times by ABC News and won several awards. The following video shows her story about the day she was abducted. You can watch it now through this video, or you can click on it in the PowerPoint.
No idea that she was once a little girl taken captive by a sex offender, held prisoner for 18 years, surviving his rages, his abuse, giving birth to 2 children in a hidden backyard. This was J.C. Lee Dugard when her childhood was stolen. This was J.C. Lee Dugard 5 years ago when she talked to me after her rescue.
My world changed in an instant.
And this is J.C. Lee Dugard today. Re-emerging out of her privacy with lessons she's learned in the past 5 years.
Thank you.
About transforming suffering into joy every single day.
Oh, this is my favorite.
An unexpected masterclass in resilience and renewal from someone who had to learn life's toughest lessons at age 11. Look at her. It's as if time stopped.
Do you feel 35?
36. I'm
36.
closer to 40.
Oh,
Say I look a little bit older, please.
sorry.
I feel old. I feel like I've lived a lot of lifetimes, and I don't really, I don't know, I don't really put an age to myself. When you look in the mirror, do you?
Yes.
You do? No, I mean, like when you look in the mirror, do you?
Yes.
Even her face, in some ways, a constant reminder of the time stolen from her. All those years as a captive in a predator's backyard, a prisoner inside a shed.
Your skin.
No sun for 18 years.
But you said your eyes are still very sensitive to light.
Yeah, very, very sensitive to sunlight.
A scar, invisible to the world. Scars she says she accepts in the life she now lives with her mother and her daughters, the one she gave birth to in captivity. She has written a second book about finding the path to your life, to freedom.
I don't think there's anything inside me that isn't in anybody else. It's taken a lot of time, and it hasn't come overnight. You have to put in the hard work and cry and for sure laugh about everything that you can.
She says sometimes you can only find the light by looking straight through the dark memories.
What it was like being in the backyard, it's always there in the back of my mind. Never really goes away.
The backyard, that's always how you call it.
The fences, the prison backyard.
There is no way to tell you about the triumph of J.C. Dugard today without taking you back to those last moments when she was still a safe and happy little girl. An 11-year-old who loved her mom, her little sister, a cat named Monkey. A child who also loves words and books and her 5th grade class at school. On June 10th, 1991, as she always did, she walked up the little hill in front of her house in Lake Tahoe, California, to catch the school bus. She was dressed in her favorite outfit, pink tights and a white T-shirt with a pink kitty cat on front. She reaches the road. A gray car pulls up. A stranger rolls down the window.
And his hand shoots out, and I just feel numb.
He had shocked her with a stun gun.
My whole body is tingly. I don't know what it's from.
She falls to the ground unconscious. The man driving is Philip Garrido, a convicted sex offender sentenced to 50 years in prison, but released after just 11. In the car with him is wife Nancy. Prosecutors will say she helped scout the little girl as his prize. It is Nancy who has the 11-year-old child pinned to the backseat floor.
I heard the driver say, "I can't believe we got away with it," and he started laughing.
The Garridos drive their captive 150 miles to a blue house in a neighborhood near San Francisco. An ordinary-looking house, but concealed behind, there is a fence. And behind the fence, a deranged scene. A collection of rundown sheds and storage units hidden in the trees. Garrido strips off her clothes, her little pink tights, and puts a blanket over her head. He takes the naked child into this shed, tiny, completely soundproof. He tells her he's going to put her in handcuffs.
Said that they were the fuzzy kind, so they wouldn't hurt as bad.
He locks her inside, and she has no idea that this prison backyard will be her life for 18 years. Strange what fades in memory, strange what remains. In her dreams, she used to see that little pink outfit.
With the kitty cat.
He just burned it. Yeah, I still think about that little outfit for some reason.
Naked, handcuffed, weeping alone. The only thing she has left from her safe and happy life is a little ring shaped like a butterfly. She takes it off and manages to hide it from him for 18 years until she's free. Again, she's 11 years old and knows nothing about his plans. She thinks sex is Ken and Barbie dolls sleeping near each other. Then one day, he brings her a treat, a milkshake. She is still in handcuffs.
My first taste of pure evil.
You knew it was pure evil?
Oh, yeah.
It is the first day he rapes her.
I mean, maybe I didn't register that and go, oh my God, you're evil. But your body and there's something inside of you that knows this is not right.
The pain, the abject fear. Afterwards, she remembers seeing a trail of ants make their way towards that untouched milkshake. At one point, he gives her a TV, tuned in to QVC.
I would fall asleep to the sound of jewelry being sold, but at least it was talking.
We'll say hello to Selena.
Her only company is a spider on the wall. She names Bianca.
There was not a day that I didn't cry. I felt like there would never, ever be a day that I wouldn't cry again.
There's a towel over the window in the shed. After he leaves, she pulls it down with her teeth. Moonlight streams through. When we talked 5 years ago, here's what she told me about thinking of her mother and how it got her through the nights.
We would always sit on the porch and we would debate whether the full moon or the crescent moon was the better moon. I always liked the full moon and she liked the crescent. And just always made me think of her.
Do you remember the song you and your mom sang? Looking at the moon?
You are the moon. How does it go? I forget.
I love the moon and the moon
Sees me. I see the moon and the moon sees me. God bless the moon and God bless me.
So those are some examples of the nature versus nurture debate, and you can decide whether you think it's nature or nurture or a combination of both. Next is Unit 4, Socialization, Part 2.